was a question about a parabola and a straight line. Okay, so we're definitely going to have something like this in our exams. So we're going to try this one first. I wonder if it wouldn't be easier if I moved that over to the side here and move that over a little bit. I was trying to fiddle with this earlier and I couldn't quite make up my mind what would be the easiest thing for us here. I still don't know. Okay, well, let's get started on the first question. So in 5.1, well, actually, before we start on the first question, let's just read the information. So they've given us, sketched below are the graphs of f of x equals minus 2x squared plus 4x plus 16, and g of x equals 2x plus 4. A and B are the x-intercepts of f, and C is the turning point. Okay, so fairly straightforward, easy stuff. The first thing that they're asking us to do is to calculate the coordinates of A and B. So what do A and B represent? You can put your answers into the chat. What do A and B represent? Points A and B represent what, Matrix? What do we call those points? That's it, x-intercepts. Lovely, everybody. Cool. So for the x-intercept, the rule is we've got to let what be equal to 0? Thank you, everybody. Yes, y. Correct. So we've got to make y equal to 0, 100%. Okay, so you guys go ahead and go and do that. You're going to make y equal to 0, and then we're going to solve the x-intercepts, and then we can move on to the next question. Good job. Excuse me. Okay, so for those of us that have just joined us, we are busy determining the coordinates at A and B. Those are the x-intercepts of f of x. So we've got to let y be equal to 0. So that's what we're busy with at the moment. There we go, Tamika. Very nice. Thank you. Let's see. Kanisa, you got x equals 4, x equals negative 2. Yes, me too, Kanisa. That's what I also got. Yes. Okay. Timna, I realize you're just reporting your answers, and Tamika, I realize you're just reporting your answers here, and Tapiso, just on the page, you're not writing the word and though, okay? It must be or. Okay, so x is 4 or x is negative 2. Okay, if we write and in our trials or our finals, then we're going to be penalized for that. Okay, and that's because in maths, the word and means something very different to the word or. Okay, so and means both at the same time. So 4 or negative 2 don't simultaneously solve our equation. It's the one or the other. Okay, so as long as we're using the word or on the page, then that's fine. Okay, so yes, negative 2 or 4. Good stuff, lovely. The other thing that you must make sure that you show is that you have equated it to 0. Okay, I'll do that now just underneath here. I just want to give everybody a chance to get started on the next question, which is they want us to determine the coordinates of C, the turning point of F. Yes, Yakupa, that's perfect. Coordinates of C, the turning point of F. Now, this is something that is not on our formula sheet. We need to know the way to be able to do this ourselves. Okay, there's 2 ways we can answer this question. What are the two ways? Can anybody tell me in the chat how do we answer this question? The coordinates of C, the turning point. Aha, that's good, Sapiso. So the only thing you left off was x equals. So you've got to write x equals negative b over 2a. Lovely, 100%. What's the other way that we can do this question, Matrix? Yep, that's right, Oratile. X equals negative b over 2a. What's the other way we can answer this question, Matrix? There's another way we can do this. Does anybody know? So we've got the x-intercepts, don't we? We know what the coordinates at A and B are. So if we want to work out the x coordinate at the turning point, we can also use midpoint formula. Okay. Oh, you're on the ball here. You've already worked out the coordinates at the turning point. Okay, all right. It's fine. So let's just do those questions here. All right, so you can go ahead and go and do that. See if you get the same answers. I'm just doing 5.1 quickly. Okay, so very, very important that you show that you've made it equal to 0. And this line here where you've got your factors, you must remember, don't leave off the equals 0. Okay, and then an answer over there. Okay, so now those of us that used x equals negative b over 2a, that would have been negative 4 over 2 times negative 2. So that gives us negative 4 over negative 4, and sorry, x is equal to, beg your pardon, this is supposed to be 1. Let's have a look what you guys are saying in the chat. Yes, lovely, good job. Okay, nice. All right, so now we would have taken that 1. For those of us that have not managed to do this question just yet, what do we do with the 1, Matrix? Where are we going to take the 1? What are we going to do with it? We're going to take the 1 and we're going to? Exactly. Okay, so substitute it into the original equation. That's it. Well done. Nice. Good job, everybody. Palesa, it's fine. You can use the quadratic formula, but you must show that you've subbed in. Okay. Okay, you've got to show that you've subbed into the quadratic formula. So you can't just write down x equals negative b plus minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You've got to show that you've subbed in the a and the b and the c. That would be, it would either be that, or that mark would be allocated to the line where you factorize. So you absolutely have to show that. Okay, so here, just to finish this off, we are substituting in 1. So we're calculating f of 1. So minus 2 times 1 squared plus 4 times 1 plus 16. Okay, so we get minus 2 plus 4 plus 16, and that's why you guys are getting 18 as an answer. All right, so the coordinates at C are 1 and 18. Lovely, everyone. Okay, next question. So now we've got 5 out of 5 so far. Next question, write down the range. You can also derive to find the turning point. That's quite right, Emihle. Absolutely. Do you want me to do it that way quickly? That's fine, Yakupa. You're absolutely fine to use the quadratic formula. Not a problem at all. Okay, immediately, I'm really glad you brought that up. We can derive. Okay, absolutely, we can derive to do it that way as well. Okay, yeah, so you can use x equals minus b over 2a. You can use midpoint formula, or you can derive. there's actually quite a few ways to be able to do that. So yeah, before we go and do the range, let's actually just talk about that quickly. So your alternative here, Emihle, was to go f prime x is equal to negative 4x plus 4. And then, of course, at the turning point, the derivative would be 0 equals negative 4x plus 4. I'm going to take this minus 4x over to the other side. So 4x would be equal to 4. Divide both sides by 4, and then x would be equal to 1. Okay, yeah, 100%. Very good. Okay. Your other option here, yes, Matalo, good. Good. Your other option here as well, Matrix, just in case they do ask, well, not in case, I'm sure they probably will ask you this. The other thing that you can do, let's just do this one in blue, is you can use midpoint formula. So in other words, the x coordinate at the turning point is going to be midway between A and B. So we know that at A, x was equal to negative 2. At B, we know that x was equal to 4. So look at this. We can say x equals negative 2 plus 4 all over 2. That's midpoint formula. All right. So that's going to give us 2 over 2, which gives us 1. So that would be the other way that you could do it. Okay. So yeah, just be aware of that. There's many ways to answer that question. All right, so as far as the range of f is concerned, y is greater than or equal to 18. Lovely. Okay, I quite agree. Okay, so for 5.3, y is greater than or equal to 18. Of course, your alternative with that is to write it using brackets. Okay, so from here, 18 is going to be your maximum. So it goes from negative infinity up to 18. And then here we've got a square bracket. Okay, so that would be the other way in which we can write that. How are we doing so far? Is everybody happy? Are there any questions? We're all good. We've all got 6 out of 6 so far. Nice. Cool. Thanks.
A raised hand.
Oh, okay. Naledi, go for it. You're welcome to unmute yourself, Naledi.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Naledi.
Ma'am, I'm confused at 5.3.
Okay. I can see that Sipile has also said that they're confused. What's confusing you, Naledi?
I don't understand why are you saying y is greater or equal to 18.
You know what? You're quite right. I did it the wrong way around. Hang on a second. It's supposed to be smaller than. Thank you. There's good reason that you are confused. Sorry. You're quite right.
Thank you, ma'am.
My apologies. No, you're quite right. Thank you. Y is supposed to be smaller than or equal to 18. Sorry, it's a maximum, isn't it? Okay, so every output value has to be smaller than or equal to 18, not greater than 18. Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, that makes, yeah, does that make more sense, Sipile? Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Carol, it's Carol.
Hi, Carol. How are you?
Fine, thanks. And how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yes, I didn't hear what you're explaining at 5.2. Can you please explain for me?
Okay. All right, that's fine. So somebody else also asked about that as well. And then I think we need to talk about 5.2 and 5.3 a little bit more. So in question 5.2, what I was doing is I was explaining all the different ways that we can answer this question. So in other words, when we want to calculate the coordinates at the turning point of a parabola, there are at least 3 different ways that we can use There's actually 4, but I mean, the 4th one, we don't really want to do that if we don't have to. But the 3 ways that we would calculate the x coordinate at the turning point. So the first one that I was explaining here was us using the formula. Let me just write it down. This is x equals negative b over 2a.
Okay.
You must remember that from grade 11, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So that would be the one way to do it. Okay, so that's this first method that I've given you here. And then once you've worked out what it is, so in this case, x is equal to 1, you're then going to go and sub the 1 back into the original equation. And we're calculating what f of 1 is. Does that make sense, Carol?
Yes.
Okay. So then the second way that I was saying that you can do this, right, is to use calculus. Because the gradient at the turning point is what? What is the value of the gradient at the turning point? Yes, Palesa. Okay, the second method, it's not doing it by first principles. I'm using the first derivative. Remember, the first derivative is gradient at a point. So what we're saying here, and I think I've lost Carol somewhere, is that remember our graph is shaped like this. So what is the gradient at the turning point? The gradient at the turning point is going to be equal to? You can put it into the chat. What's the gradient at the turning point? Exactly, Pabalo. Okay, the gradient at the turning point is 0. Yes, 100%, everyone. Okay, so that's why we're taking the first derivative, because remember, we use the first derivative for gradient. Okay, so the gradient is 0, and then we can make the first derivative equal to 0 and then solve for the x coordinate at the turning point as well. Okay, why 0? Yeah, why is it 0? Because at the turning point, let me just see your name, Norma Hlubi, at the turning point, okay, the gradient is 0 because the graph is no longer increasing, but it also hasn't started decreasing yet. Okay, so that's why we refer to it as a turning point, because the gradient is not going up anymore and it's not started going down yet. Okay, so the gradient is not changing at that point. Gradient it's exactly, Cassandra, it's a stationary point. Okay. And then the third method, this is midpoint formula. So you know when you want to calculate the midpoint of a line, we can use midpoint formula. Okay, so midpoint formula. So if, in other words, if we've got a line like that, we wanted to calculate what the coordinates were at the midpoint, we can use this formula because, let's just go up to our picture. If our x-axis is over here, our midpoint, or our x-coordinate is our turning point, the midpoint between the x-intercepts. Okay, so the distance from one x-intercept to here is the same as the distance from the other x-intercept to there. Okay, have you seen that at school before, Matrix? Have your teacher showed you that you can use midpoint formula to calculate the x-coordinate at the turning point in class? Has anyone's teacher shown them that? Yes, okay, so Kensani, yes, Tumaleng. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, so Nolwazi, you say your teacher hasn't shown you. Carol, you say your teacher hasn't shown you. Okay. Kanyisa, you say your teacher hasn't shown you. Okay, that doesn't matter. Okay. As long as you understand and can use one of these methods, you're okay. Right. Is it making sense to everybody now? Are we all good? Okay, thanks, Kanisa. All right, so just stop me if there's anything that I say that you don't understand, all right? Okay. All right, then as far as range is concerned, all right, so the word range is a word that we have in maths to describe the outputs. Okay, so the word domain describes the inputs. So in other words, what's happening on the x-axis. The word range describes what's happening on the y-axis. So in other words, if we think about it like this, as far as range is concerned, right, this graph comes all the way from negative infinity. Somewhere down here is negative infinity. And it goes up 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 and up till it gets to a point where it does not go any higher. Now that point, that maximum that it reaches in this particular case is 18. Okay, the y coordinate at the turning point. And after it's become 18, it then continues to decrease again and go back down to negative infinity. So that's why we say that every y value on this graph can be any number from negative infinity up to 18. So that means that the range, it must be any number that is smaller than or equal to 18, because 18 is the biggest. Does that make sense to everybody why that would be the range?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Carol. Okay. Palesa, no, I'm going to do a mixture so that you guys get both. Okay, so I'm going to do paper 1 and paper 2. Okay, all right. Good stuff, everyone. All right. Are we ready to do a bit of a more difficult question now, Matrix? Let's have a look at the next thing that they would expect us to be able to do. Okay, so now I'm going to support you through this one because this is just a little bit more difficult than the other questions. All right, so let's first have a look at the question. So it tells us in 5.4, let's just get rid of the blue line over there. All right, so in 5.4, it says to us that the graph of h of x is equal to f of x plus p plus q. And it has a maximum of 15 at x equals 2. Determine the values of p and q. What do they mean by this? What do they say is happening here? How is the graph of h of x different to the graph of f of x? What's happened to f of x to make h of x? Can anybody tell me? Aha, okay. So someone's private messaged me and given me the right answer. Good, Sipiso. Okay, so it's not just been shifted down, Sipiso. What's the other thing that's, yes, good, Naledi. How do you know that the graph is shifted down, Naledi? What tells you that it's shifted down? Ah, there we go, it's a piece. So that's really nice. The range decreased. Yes, Sukiswa, lovely. It shifted 3 units vertically down. Brilliant. Oh, Palesa, I couldn't have said it better. That's excellent. I'm so glad you said that. The maximum has changed from 18 to 15. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Lovely, 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 lovely. So what does that mean in terms of the P and the Q? What are we referring to? Is it the P or the Q that's changed by 3? Our maximum shifted downwards by 3 units. Lovely. Aha, it's the Q. Fabulous. Oh, Matrix, that's brilliant. I'm so excited. Wonderful. So we know what the value of Q is. All right, the value of Q, in this case, Q is equal to -3. Okay, awesome. Because we had our turning point at 1 and 18, and now it's come to 2 and 15, quite right. So here we've gone down by 3. Lovely. What's happened in terms of 1 becoming 2? What does that mean for us? Is that also a translation? What does the 1 becoming a 2 mean for us? What's happened to the graph? Oh, Tapiso, that's brilliant. Exactly. It has shifted 1 unit to the right-hand side. Good. Lovely. Shifted 1 unit to the. Do the rest of you see that as well? Okay, so where it was sitting at 1 in terms of left and right, it's now sitting at 2. All right, so it has shifted 1 unit to the right. Now the difficult question, what then is the value of P? What is the value of P if the graph has shifted 1 unit to the right from where it was? Don't be afraid to say what you think. It doesn't matter if it's wrong. All that matters is that we're trying. Okay, lovely. Okay, so we've got a couple of answers here. The value of P see what anybody else says. Okay, Naledi says 1, Sipile says -2, Nomahlubi says +1. Okay, Palesa says +1. Okay, now I want to ask you guys a question. Okay, before we go any further, let me just go down here, right? If I do this and I say y equals x plus 2 squared minus 4. Okay. What function is this? If I was to draw this, what would it make? What function is that? Absolutely, it's a parabola. 100%, lovely, it's a parabola. Now, this parabola, inside the bracket, it says x plus 2. All right, so has this parabola been shifted 2 units to the right or 2 units to the left? What do you think, right or left? You can put your answers into the chat. Is it shifted to the right? Does x plus 2 mean it's shifted to the right or shifted to the left? Good, okay. So most of you are saying to the left, and the left is correct. Yes, Kanisa, left. Okay, quite right. How do we know that it's shifted 2 units to the left? Well, what we do if we want to work out our axis of symmetry from here, so in other words, the line that cuts the graph in half is we take what's inside the bracket and we make it equal to 0. So that means the line x equals -2 is our axis of symmetry. So the graph has been shifted 2 units to the left. Graph shifted 2 units to the left. Okay, so when they are asking you for the value of p, right, they are asking you for the value of this number over here. Okay, so if in this situation here, if I said to you, what is the value of p, what would you tell me? P is equal to -2. Good. Yes, absolutely. P is equal to -2. Quite right. Quite right. Good. Okay, because the graph shifted 2 units to the left-hand side. So P is equal to -2. So good. Now we've got that. So now here, all right, in this situation, what is the value of P? Careful, just be careful here because there's a plus there. Exactly, exactly. It will be -1. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, so in order to shift it to the right, we have to take away 1. That's it, everybody. Okay, you got the right idea. Good, Matrix. Good stuff, everyone. That's great. I'm really pleased with the way you were able to answer that question. Woohoo. Good stuff. Okie doke. Should we move on to the next question now? All right. The next question, determine the equation of g to the -1, the inverse of g in the form y equals. Okay, so now they're asking us a question about inverses. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move that over to the side like that and just rub off some of this stuff that we've got here. All right, just get rid of that. Okay, so they want the equation of the inverse, right? So now they've told us what g was equal to up here. Let me just highlight it for you guys again. Shame, I know it's a bit difficult with when things are on screen, we kind of got to go up and down and whatever. But there's the equation of g, all right? Can you guys, I'm going to let you try and do this by yourselves. Can you find the equation of the inverse of g? Do you remember for inverses, we've got to swap x and y around. I won't say any more than that. I'll let you try it yourselves. And then we can talk about what the answer is. Okay, so we're looking for the inverse, the equation of the inverse of g, please. Oh, wow. You guys are super quick. Okay, so I see lots of answers are coming through.
Lead the way. I'm out.
All right, so we want the equation of the inverse of g in the form y equals. okay, in the form y equals. Okay, so I see some of you are giving me x equals. Okay, so there we go. Sipile, now we're on the right track. Okay, nice. I like that. That's what I got. Okay, so just be careful, guys, because we're not solving for x. Okay, we are, let's just put that question over there, and then I'm going to write up here. So remember, we're not solving for x. We are writing the equation of the inverse in the form y equals. So if, here's 5.6. So if y equals 2x plus 4, the inverse, g to the minus 1, means we've got to switch x and y around, isn't it right? So that means we're going to say that x equals 2y plus 4. So now I've still got to make y the subject to the formula, don't I? All right. Isn't it 5.5? Okay. Oh, sorry, it is. It's 5.5. Sorry, beg your pardon. Thank you, Palesa. So now when we make y the subject to the formula, we're going to take 4 over to the other side, and we've got x minus 4. Then what do we need to do? We've got to divide through by 2. By 2 and by 2. So therefore, we've got y equals 1y equals half x, or x over 2, minus 4 divided by 2, we must write as 2. Okay. Everybody good? Any questions? Okay, so maybe we can go on to the next question, which again is one of these sorts of challenging questions. These are normally the sorts of things that we look at and we say, oh my goodness, we're not even going to try to answer a question like that. Okay, but let's see if we can give it a bash this evening. What does this mean? I mean, if I was somebody, if I wasn't a maths teacher and I said to you, okay, so Matrix, explain to me, how do I answer question 5.6? What does that mean? What does this bit g to the minus 1x times g of x equals 0? What does that actually mean to us? How would we explain that to someone who doesn't know anything about maths? Anyone got any ideas? Yeah, that's what most of us think too, Courtney, when we see a question like that. Cassandra, you've explained that very nicely. Tapisa, y value of inverse and original equals 0. Yes, Tapisa, you've also explained that really nice. Okay, Nomatubi, you got a question about the previous one. So it's this over here, Nomatubi. So x over 2 is the same as half of x, isn't it? We're taking x and we're dividing it by 2. So x over 2 means half of x. Okay, so if you want to write it as x over 2, you can. Sepile, for which values of x, if g of x, and absolutely. So we're timesing them together. So in other words, what we are doing here is we are multiplying numbers together. So we're saying, sorry, I'm just writing the wrong thing here. Let me just correct myself. Okay, so we are taking the outputs on that graph, and we're multiplying them by the outputs on this one, and we want to get 0 as an answer. Okay, so in maths, if we're multiplying two numbers together, a number times another number, and we get 0 as an answer, all right? Either the first number has to be a 0, or the second number has to be a 0, doesn't it? For us to get 0 as an answer. So either the output on G minus 1 has got to be 0, or the output on G has to be 0. Okay, so when are outputs equal to 0? When do outputs equal 0? Where does it have to be to equal 0? Where do outputs equal 0? There we go. Well done, Kanisa, on the x-axis. Quite right. Okay. So Zukiswa, gradient is 0 at the maximum. Okay. But Sapiso, that's a lovely answer. Well done. Okay. On the x-axis. Okay. So at the x-intercepts. There we go. Okay. 100%. Okay. At the x-intercepts. Quite right. Yes. Okay, so that's where y is equal to 0 at the x-axis. Okay, so now can you find the x-intercepts of g minus 1 and g? I'm going to let you guys do that yourselves. You're going to find the x-intercepts of g minus 1 and g. Okay, so Spoo says for g, where x equals -2. I agree with you, Spoo. I agree with you. I agree, Palesa. Me too, Maya. That's what I got. Yes. Liam and Timna, I'm sure that's your answer for the first one. Good. I agree, Oratile. Okay, so where x is equal to negative, sorry, that's a very badly written x. So where x is equal to -2 is quite right for g, where x is equal to -2. And for g minus 1, there we go. Okay, I didn't get -4, Oratile. I got +4. Yes, me too, Kanisa. Yes, Suronewa, me too. Yes, Lisa, same answer. Okay, so Oratile, I don't know if you can see over here what I've written. It's this bit over there. Okay, so when you take the 2 over to the other side, it would be half x equals +2. Yes, good, Carol. Good, Sinatemba. Yes, Valerie. Yes, Timna, I got the same answer. Okay. That's okay. Mafara, we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. All right, so don't. That's why we're here. We're all here to learn. Okay. So don't worry about that. Okay, so this is going to be where x is equal to 2 or where x was equal to 4. Interesting way of asking that question, isn't it? Okay, all right. So now we're nearly there, guys. We're nearly there. We just want to answer this last question. Okay, let's jump in there and see what we can. Happiness. Okay. 1 second, happiness. Let me just clear some of the stuff out the way because I think it gets a little bit confusing with the writing everywhere. Okay. Happiness, the reason why I also said my answer has to be equal to +4 and not -4 is because the equation of g minus 1, remember g minus 1 is 1 over 2x minus 2. Okay. So if we make y equal to 0 for the x-intercept, and we now take this minus 2 over to the other side, so this guy is going to go over here, it's going to change to +2, isn't it? Okay, so it's now going to be +2 on the left is equal to half x. Okay, so now I'm going to divide by a half on both sides, or the other way I could look at it is that I'm going to divide by, so I'm going to times by 2 on both sides. Okay, so I'm going to times this side by 2, so I get x, I must times that side by 2, and that's why it's +4. Okay. Okay, happiness. Okay. All right, so now let's try this last question. So it tells us now we've got a graph P of x, all right? And P of x is equal to, let's just erase more of the stuff. P of x is equal to f of x plus k. And they want to know the values for which P and G will not intersect. So this is a little bit of a grade 11 question kind of thrown in here as well. First of all, how could we write the equation for P of x? What could we do? What are we going to write P of x is equal to? Remember, P of x is equal to f of x plus k. So how should we write P of x? Can anybody put that into the chat for us? How would we write P of x if P of x is f of x plus k? What are we going to do here? Remember, f of x is? Oh, absolutely, add k to the equation, quite right. So f of x is, remember, f of x is minus 2x squared plus 4x plus 16, isn't it? And this becomes P of x when we do this, minus 2x squared plus 4x plus 16 plus k. Remember, g of x, okay, and again, this is difficult to see because we've got to go up and down here. G of x is 2x plus 4. So when they say to us, determine the values of k for which P and G will not intersect, the words not intersect, yes, we finished with answering question 5.6. The word not intersect means they have what sort of roots? What does the words not intersect mean? What sort of roots? P and G have what roots? P and G have what sort of roots? You very close, Cassandra, not negative. Something is negative, but it's not the roots necessarily. I know you're right there, Cassandra. P and G have non. There we go. There we go. Well done. There we go. Excellent. They have non-real roots. So what's negative? Delta, the discriminant. Okay, so in other words, b squared minus 4ac is what is negative, or delta. Delta is what's negative in this particular case. All right, so the way in which we answer this question, Shem, I said we haven't got much time yet, so I better get a move on with this because the other class will be logging on soon. Okay, we've got to make these two equal to one another, which seems odd, but then we have to do an interpretation based on the fact that delta, or the discriminant, is going to be negative. So we do this matrix. We say minus 2x squared plus 4x plus 16 plus k is equal to 2x plus 4. We're going to move everything over to the left hand. Oh gosh, what have I done? Hang on a second. I think I accidentally minimized my screen. Sorry about that. Let's just get rid of all of this stuff. Okay. Now we've got to move everything over to one side. Okay, we've got to get it into the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So it's going to become minus 2x squared plus 4x plus 16 plus k minus 2x minus 4 equals 0. Collect like terms. Negative 2x squared plus 2x plus 12 minus k, plus k equals 0. So here in this form, a is the coefficient of the x squared term. B is the coefficient of the x term. And c is everything else. Okay, so now matrix for non-real roots. Okay, for non-real roots, delta is smaller than 0. So that means b squared minus 4ac is smaller than 0. Okay, now subbing into delta, we've got b squared, so that's 2 squared, minus 4, a is equal to negative 2, c is equal to 12 plus k, has to be smaller than 0. Got to get rid of our brackets now, because remember they want us to solve for k. So this is 4. Now we're going to say negative 4 times negative 2 times 12. Okay, so that's going to leave us with 8 times 12. 8 times 12 is 96. Am I right? No, yes, it is. Okay, so plus 96. Oh, Cassandra, you've already got an answer. Well done. Okay, and then we've got to say negative 4 times negative 2 times positive k. Remember, we're expanding the brackets. This is grade 8 distribution. Okay, so this is going to be plus 8k is smaller than 0. So now we're going to leave the 8k on this side, and we're going to take the 96 and the 4 over to the other side. So 96 plus 4 is 100. So now we've got minus 100 on the right-hand side. And now we've got to divide this side by 8 and that side by 8. So that means that k has to be smaller than, and I think, yeah, 25 over 2 is right. Okay, so 12 and a half. Sorry, negative 12 and a half, hey? Okay, or you could write k is smaller than negative 25 over 2. There's nothing wrong with that. That's okay, Yakupa. No stress. Okay. How's everybody feeling? Is that making sense? Are we good? Just move that up a little bit there. Oh, good. Correct, Kanisa. So only if we divide or multiply by a negative, that's when we change the sign of the inequality. Okay, good stuff. Oh, it's nice to see all those thumbs ups. As always, you guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your wonderful participation.